Snow fell in slow, thick flakes, drifting like quiet ghosts across the empty street as Ethan Hale stood frozen at the edge of Willow Creek's Old Town Square. The world felt suspended, silent, breathless, waiting. Christmas lights glowed softly against the snowfall, blurring into halos of gold and red, but he barely saw them. His attention was fixed on the woman standing just a few yards away, the woman he had once overlooked without a second thought. Her name was Lily Brookshire, and at that moment, she looked nothing like the quiet, invisible girl he vaguely remembered from high school. No, this woman standing under the lamppost wasn't invisible at all. She was shining, radiant even through the snowfall, her coat dusted with flakes, her breath forming soft clouds in the cold air. She clutched a stack of handwritten Christmas cards to her chest, but her expression was what tore something open inside him. Shock, hurt, recognition, and something far heavier. Ethan had returned home for Christmas, thinking he could slip in unnoticed, spend a few quiet days with his parents, and return to the city without confronting anything real, without confronting the parts of his past he'd shoved into the darkest corners of his memory. He had been wrong, because Lily, who he had barely spoken to during school, Lily who sat at the back of the classroom drawing snowflakes in the margins of her notebooks, Lily who people ignored or whispered about but never truly knew, had grown into someone unforgettable, someone whose eyes now held tears she was trying desperately not to let fall, someone who clearly recognized him long before he recognized her, and someone he had unknowingly hurt years ago in ways he was only beginning to understand. Snow collected on his hair, on his coat, on the gift bag he still held in his trembling hand. But he didn't move. He couldn't. Not when she whispered, barely audible through the winter wind. "Why now, Ethan? Why did you come back?" Hello, my beautiful souls, and welcome back to another one of our long, cozy Christmas stories, the kind that warms your heart like a glowing fireplace on a cold December night. Before we dive in, I want you to take just a moment for yourself. Find a comfortable place to relax, wrap up in your favorite blanket, maybe pour yourself something warm and soothing. This is your time, your peaceful escape, your moment to breathe. And as always, I want to know, where in the world are you watching from tonight? It truly amazes me how our little Christmas family keeps growing. People from every continent gathering together to share these stories of love, hope, second chances, and seasonal magic. So please drop your country, your city, or even a snowy emoji down in the comments. I love reading them and imagining all of you listening from your cozy spots around the world. Tonight's story is one filled with nostalgia, regret, unexpected encounters, and the kind of love that blooms when you least expect it, often in the people you once overlooked. It's a story about coming home, not just physically, but emotionally. About facing the ghosts of your past, about realizing too late that the person you dismissed, ignored, or took for granted might have been the one who saw you the whole time. So, settle in, my loves. Let me take you to a quiet little town covered in snow, where twinkling Christmas lights illuminate old memories, and where a single unexpected reunion changes everything. This is He Returned Home for Christmas and Fell for the Woman He Once Overlooked. Let's begin. Ethan Hale hadn't stepped foot in Willow Creek for nearly 8 years. He had boarded a plane to New York at 20 years old with a scholarship, 2 overstuffed suitcases, and a desperate desire to leave his small hometown life behind. He wanted more opportunity, more excitement, more meaning. At least that's what he told himself back then. The truth was simpler and far less poetic. He wanted to run from expectations, from regrets, from memories he didn't want to relive. And Willow Creek, quiet, predictable, too small to get lost in, held too many of those memories. But now, 8 years later, he found himself driving past the wooden sign that still read, "Welcome to Willow Creek," where Christmas lives all year long. Snow blanketed the forest surrounding the narrow road, and warm light seeped from the windows of nearby cabins, creating an almost postcard-perfect winter scene. Ethan tightened his grip on the steering wheel. His chest felt strangely heavy. He'd forgotten how the air smelled here. Clean, crisp, slightly pine-scented. He'd forgotten how the cold seeped deeper, sharper than the winter winds of Manhattan. and he'd forgotten how quiet everything felt. Too quiet. As he drove through the town center, he saw the familiar red brick buildings, the wreaths hanging from every lamppost, and the massive Christmas tree that towered in the center of the square like a glowing monument of nostalgia. Children ran around its base, tossing snowballs, their laughter echoing in the night. It all looked exactly the same. He was the one who had changed. He parked in front of his parents' house, a charming white colonial home with garlands draped along the porch railing and warm golden light glowing through the frosted windows. His mother must have decorated the moment December hit. He stepped out of the car, snow crunching under his boots, and inhaled a shaky breath. "Welcome home," he murmured to himself. He wasn't sure if he meant it. Before he could grab his suitcase, the front door swung open. "Ethan!" His mother rushed toward him, wrapping him in the kind of hug only a mother could give, one that squeezed out the breath and filled the space with warmth. "You're finally here," he smiled softly, hugging her back. "Hi, Mom." His father followed, slower but smiling. "Good to have you home, son." Inside, the scent of cinnamon and pine filled the air. Christmas music played softly from an old speaker. Every inch of the house glowed with holiday warmth. But beneath that warmth was something else, something familiar, something he'd tried to forget. A memory. A girl. A quiet girl with soft brown hair who used to help his mother decorate this house every December. A girl who made hand-painted ornaments because his mother loved her artistic touch. A girl whose eyes always darted away when Ethan walked into the room, as if she were afraid of being seen. Lily. He hadn't thought of her in years. Or maybe he had, more often than he liked to admit. He just never said her name aloud. "Mom," he said as he set his bag down, "is Lily still around? Does she still live in town?" His mother paused. A little too long. "Oh, yes," she said lightly, turning toward the kitchen. "She's still here. She runs the stationery shop now. Brookshire Paper and Ink." He felt something twist in his stomach. He didn't know why. Brookshire Paper and Ink. He remembered passing by that shop as a teenager. He remembered the window displays, delicate, whimsical, full of color and warmth. He remembered everyone joking that the shop was too creative, too soft, too quiet to ever survive business-wise. But it had survived, because Lily had survived. "Maybe you'll run into her," his mother said over her shoulder. "It's a small town after all." Ethan nodded, but something in his chest tightened. He hadn't expected to think about Lily. He definitely hadn't expected to care. And he certainly wasn't expecting what would happen the next evening in the Christmas square. Because that was when he would see her again, and when everything he thought he knew about Lily Brookshire would change forever. The next evening, Ethan found himself wandering through Willow Creek's Christmas market, something he told himself he was doing just to get some air. But that wasn't the truth. He was looking for her. He didn't understand why. He didn't even know what he planned to say if he found her. He and Lily had never been close. Barely acquaintances, really. Their interactions back in high school were limited to polite nods in the hallway, brief project partnerships where she did most of the work, and awkward group settings where she tended to drift to the edges like a shadow. She was the kind of girl who blended in, the kind of girl he never truly noticed. But now, years later, now that he had grown up, lived life, failed, succeeded, lost, and changed, he realized something uncomfortable. He should have noticed her, because the quiet ones, the ones who never demanded attention, they tended to be the people with the loudest hearts. Snow drifted over the glowing stalls of the market, settling in delicate layers over garlands and ribbon-covered displays. Vendors sold hot cider, handcrafted candles, knitted scarves, fresh fudge. Holiday lights twinkled overhead like little frozen stars. It was all overwhelmingly nostalgic. "Ethan Hale!" He spun around at the sound of his name. A man approached him, tall, blonde, wearing a thick coat and a grin that belonged to someone far too comfortable with himself. "Noah Blake," Ethan said, surprised. "I haven't seen you since graduation, I know." Noah clapped him on the shoulder. "Heard you became a big city man. Finance, right?" "Marketing," Ethan corrected. "Brand strategy." "Close enough." Noah laughed in that booming way Ethan remembered from their school days. He had been one of the stars of the football team, the kind of boy everyone gravitated to. Loud, charming, always surrounded by people. Ethan had liked him well enough, but never felt fully inside his world. "You back for long?" Noah asked. "Just a few days." Ethan shoved his hands in his pockets, suddenly uncertain if he should bring up the real reason he was out here. "How's everyone doing?" "Well, the town's the same. Some people left, some stayed, some got married, some didn't." Noah shrugged casually. "You know how it goes." "Yeah." Ethan nodded slowly. "Hey, does Lily Brookshire still—" Before he could finish the question, Noah's smirk widened. "Ah, so that's why you're out here." Ethan stiffened. "What? No, Relax, man, I'm not judging." Noah crossed his arms. "She still lives here. Yeah, she's different now." "Different how?" Noah hesitated, scratching the back of his neck. "Look, you probably remember her from school. The quiet girl. The one always sketching things. A bit shy, kept to herself. People weren't always kind to her." That was putting it mildly. Ethan remembered the whispers, the snickers, the stupid rumors that spread simply because she didn't defend herself, because she was gentle in a world that rewarded sharp edges. He remembered hearing other kids mock her art, mock her clothes, mock her loneliness, and he remembered doing nothing. That memory made something cold settle in his stomach. "She's changed?" Ethan asked. "Oh yeah," Noah said. "She grew into herself, runs that stationery shop like it's made of magic. People come from out of town just to buy her handmade cards and prints. Well, you'll see if you find her." But then, as if summoned by the very sound of her name, a soft gust of wind lifted snow into the air, and Ethan turned and froze. There she was. Lily Brookshire walked out from between two wooden stalls, her cheeks pink from the cold, her brown hair tumbling in loose waves from beneath a knitted hat. She wore a deep green coat cinched at the waist, snowflakes settling gently along her shoulders. She held a box of Christmas cards against her chest, her mittens gripping the edges carefully as though what she carried mattered deeply to her. She looked up, and her eyes met his. For a moment, the world stopped moving. He remembered Lily's eyes being brown. He had forgotten they glowed like warm amber, like melted honey in candlelight, like something alive and deep and quietly powerful. Her breath hitched, not because of the cold, because she recognized him. He saw it in the way her posture stiffened, in the way her lips parted just slightly, in the way her fingers tightened around the box she carried. Not joy, not excitement, shock, and something else. Something like hurt. She broke eye contact first, looking down quickly as if grounding herself. Noah cleared his throat. "Speak of the angel." She turned, offering Noah a gentle smile. "Hello, Noah." Her voice was soft, delicate, the kind of tone that people leaned closer to hear. "Lily," Noah greeted warmly. "You remember Ethan, right?" Lily hesitated. Then she nodded. Of course. Her eyes briefly flicked up to Ethan's before darting away again. Of course she remembered him. People always remember the ones who ignored them. "Hey, Lily." Ethan stepped closer, trying to keep his voice steady, casual, not too eager. "It's good to see you." She smiled politely, the kind of smile someone gives a stranger who knows their name, but not their story. "It's been a long time," she said. 8 years. 8 years. And she looked at him like he was a memory she'd worked hard to forget. "How's your shop?" Ethan asked, gesturing to the box she held. "Oh, busy," she replied. "Christmas season is always intense. Lots of custom orders, lots of visitors. It's a good thing." She nodded to herself, as if reassuring her own heart that it was truly good. Noah glanced between them, sensing the tension but not understanding it. "Well, I'll let you two catch up. I've got to go help set up the hot cocoa booth." He winked at Ethan before disappearing into the crowd. Ethan suddenly felt exposed, alone with her. Lily shifted her weight, gripping the box tighter. "I should deliver these before the shop closes." Do you have a moment?" Ethan asked quietly, surprising even himself. She froze. A single moment, one of hesitation, told him everything. She wasn't indifferent. She wasn't distant. She wasn't unaffected. She was cautious. "Please," he added softer. "Just a minute." She exhaled slowly and nodded. All right. He wasn't expecting relief to hit quite so hard. They stepped aside, moving near the edge of the square where the snowfall was quieter. Up close, he could see she had faint freckles across her nose, something he had never noticed. He wondered what else he had missed back then. "How long have you been back?" she asked. "Yesterday." She nodded. The silence between them stretched, not hostile, not uncomfortable, but full of things unsaid, full of memories only one of them seemed burdened by. "I heard about your shop," Ethan said. "It's doing well." She looked surprised. "You heard that?" "My mom mentioned it." That seemed to soften something in her expression. Then she looked down. "It's small, but it's mine, and it makes me happy." The simplicity of that sentence hit him harder than it should have. Happiness was something he had been chasing for years, yet here she was, content in the quiet life he once thought he was too big for. "That's amazing, Lily. Really." "Thank you," she whispered. Another silence. Then, "Why did you come back, Ethan?" she asked, not accusing, but genuinely curious. "After all this time?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. He didn't have an answer that made sense, not one that felt true. Work stress, burnout, homesickness, none of it captured the strange ache that had been building under his ribs for months, pulling him back to the town he thought he had outgrown. "I'm not sure," he said finally. "I just needed to." Her eyes softened, just a fraction. He hesitated, then admitted quietly, "I didn't expect to see you first." That made her breath hitch. But before either of them could say more, a gust of wind caught the stack of Christmas cards she held. The lid lifted, a swirl of cards exploded into the air like snow-dusted butterflies. "No!" she gasped, reaching for them. Without thinking, Ethan lunged after them, catching two, missing one, grabbing another as it spiraled downward. Lily laughed, a small, stunned sound as he handed her the rescued cards. "Thank you." "I've got fast reflexes," he said with a grin. "You always did." She blurted it out before she could stop herself. Her cheeks flushed pink, either from the cold or from the unintentional compliment. He froze. She remembered him, really remembered him. Not the facade, not the group he hung around, but him. He didn't know why that mattered so much, but it did. "That card," Lily pointed suddenly to the one he held. "You can keep it." "What?" "No, I shouldn't. I made that one for the display, but it never sold. Consider it a welcome home card." He looked down at it. A watercolor snow globe. Inside a quiet little town under falling snow. A single lamppost glowing warmly. And beneath it, two silhouettes standing close together. His heart thudded. She couldn't have known. She couldn't have painted this for him, but it felt like she had. "Thank you," he said softly. "It's beautiful." She smiled. Quiet, gentle, genuine, and this time it reached her eyes. Before he could say anything else, someone called her name from across the square. She turned. "I really have to deliver these before the shop closes." She hesitated, then added, almost reluctantly, "I'll see you around, Ethan." He watched her walk away, snowflakes settling in her hair, disappearing into the glowing crowd. And as she vanished from sight, he realized something that struck him deeper than anything else since returning home. He had no idea who Lily Brookshire really was. But for the first time in his life, he wanted to. The next morning, sunlight streamed through Ethan's childhood bedroom window in soft golden beams. Tiny flecks of dust drifted lazily through the light like floating snowflakes. The radiator clanked softly below the sill, trying its best to warm the room despite the December chill. Ethan lay awake, staring at the ceiling as one single image replayed in his mind like a loop. Lily Brookshire disappearing into the snowy market, her hair dusted with flakes, her shoulders slightly hunched as though she were carrying something heavier than the box of cards she held. He had expected coming home to be nostalgic, maybe even comforting. He had not expected Lily to be the first real jolt to his heart. "Breakfast," his mother called from downstairs. Ethan dragged himself out of bed and threw on a sweater before heading down. The scent of cinnamon pancakes filled the kitchen. His mother already had a plate prepared for him. "So," she said casually as she poured hot chocolate into a mug, "run into anyone yesterday?" He paused mid-bite. She noticed. "Ethan." He sighed. "I saw Lily." His mother's expression softened instantly. Something like affection, but also something else. Almost sadness. "She's grown into a wonderful woman," she said quietly. "I can see that," he replied. "Be gentle with her." The words came out so naturally that Ethan froze. "What do you mean?" His mother sat across from him, warming her hands on her own mug. "Lily's always been delicate in some ways, strong in others. She feels deeply. Always has. You didn't see it back then. But she had to grow up faster than most." Ethan frowned. "Grow up how?" But his mother only shook her head. "It's not my story to tell." The answer both frustrated and intrigued him. After breakfast, he tried to distract himself, helping his father shovel the walkway, running errand after errand. But no matter what he did, Lily kept creeping back into his thoughts. He told himself it was curiosity, guilt, nostalgia, anything except what it truly was. He wanted to see her again. That afternoon, unable to fight the pull any longer, he walked toward Main Street. The snowfall had lightened to a soft, almost gentle drift, sprinkling the town in white. The shops glowed with Christmas lights, each window framed with garland and decorated with handmade ornaments. A small sign caught his eye: Brookshire paper and ink hand-drawn lettering. Soft curves, tiny snowflakes dotting the corners. He hesitated at the door, hearing the faint sound of music from inside. Something soft, slow, and piano-based. A melody that felt like a whisper. He opened the door. A tiny bell chimed overhead. Warmth enveloped him instantly, both in temperature and atmosphere. The shop was a dreamlike blend of handcrafted art, wooden shelves, watercolor prints, strings of fairy lights, and soft pastel tones. Ribbons hung in neat rolls, jars of calligraphy pens lined the counter, and paper snowflakes dangled from the ceiling like floating lace. It was intimate, personal, beautiful. And there, behind the counter, sat Lily. She wore a cream-colored sweater and had her hair pinned loosely, strands falling softly around her face. She was sketching something gently, her pencil moving with careful precision. When she looked up and saw him, her breath caught. "Ethan." "Hey." He raised a hand slightly, suddenly feeling awkward in a way he hadn't felt in years. "Thought I'd stop by, see your shop." "Oh." She blinked, gathering herself. "Well, welcome. Make yourself at home." He stepped inside fully, letting the door shut behind him. The small bell chimed again. Lily set her pencil down. "Your shop is incredible," he said honestly, taking in every detail. "It feels like stepping into a storybook." A soft pink rose in her cheeks. "Thank you." He approached a display near her counter, a collection of watercolor holiday cards, snowy cabins, winter forests, lampposts glowing in the night. There was a softness to her art, something gentle and emotional, like each piece held a quiet heartbeat. "You painted all these?" "Yes." She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "All by hand." "Lily, they're beautiful." "Thank you," she repeated, but this time her voice warmed, melting just a little. He picked up a card featuring a girl standing under a snowfall, looking up at the sky. "This one feels familiar somehow." Lily looked down at her hands. "It's based on someone I used to be." Her tone was soft. Too soft. Ethan turned to study her more carefully. She wasn't just shy. She wasn't just gentle. There was something deeper in her posture. An invisible weight. A quiet protection. The kind someone learned only from being hurt more than once. He wanted to ask her about it, but she was already shifting the topic. "Did you enjoy the market last night?" she asked. "Yeah, it was nice, but..." He hesitated. "I didn't really expect to run into you." She looked away. "Most people don't." It wasn't bitterness. It wasn't resentment. It was simply truth. A truth she had grown used to. Ethan's chest tightened. "Lily, I owe you an apology." She stiffened, just barely. "For what?" "For the past. For not noticing you. For not seeing you. For not being kinder." She froze, her eyes widening in an expression he couldn't read. "You don't have to apologize," she said after a long silence. "People don't owe attention, or friendship, or kindness." "I think they do," Ethan said quietly, "and I didn't give you any of that." Her breath faltered. "Ethan, we were kids." "I should have done better," he insisted. Another silence. Only this time it was pulsing, emotional, heavy. Finally, Lily exhaled softly. "Thank you." The way she said it, gentle, fragile, almost disbelieving, hit him deeper than any anger would have. He wanted to know more, but he didn't get the chance. The shop door swung open, and a man stepped inside. A tall, broad-shouldered man with dark hair, wearing a thick jacket dusted with snow. The moment Lily saw him, her entire posture changed. She straightened, her shoulders tensed, her smile became polite, controlled, guarded. Ethan noticed immediately, and he hated it. "Lily," the man said, his tone far too familiar. "We need to talk." Lily's fingers tightened on the countertop. "Not now, Parker." Parker. Ethan remembered the name. A year older than them in high school. Charismatic, loud, the kind of boy who thrived on being admired, the kind of boy who didn't take no easily. Ethan's jaw tightened. Parker stepped closer, ignoring Ethan entirely. "We can do this here or outside. Either way, we're talking." Ethan took a step forward before he could stop himself. She said, "Not now." Parker's eyes flicked toward him for the first time, sizing him up with a smirk. "Ah, the prodigal son. Heard you were back in town." Ethan didn't blink. "So, respect her space." Lily shot Ethan a quick, worried glance, as if afraid of escalation, as if she had spent far too long navigating tense moments like this alone. Parker scoffed. "Relax. I just want to ask her something." "Then ask when she's ready," Ethan said, voice calm but firm. Parker stepped closer, too close to Lily. "You can't avoid me forever." "I'm not avoiding you," she whispered. "I'm choosing peace." The words were quiet, but they sliced through the room. Ethan's stomach twisted. What had this man put her through? Parker looked at Ethan with thinly veiled resentment. "You don't know anything about this." "Then enlighten me," Ethan said. "Ethan," Lily said quickly, her voice trembling just a little. "Please, it's all right." But it wasn't. He saw it now. The way she tried to shrink into herself. The way her voice softened as though trying not to provoke. The way the life in her eyes dimmed. This wasn't a simple conversation. It wasn't an awkward run-in. It was history. One she had clearly tried very hard to move past. Parker exhaled sharply. "Whatever. I'll come back later." He walked out, slamming the door so hard the bell rattled violently. Lily closed her eyes. She didn't cry. She didn't break. But she deflated, like someone who had been holding themselves together by threads for too long. Ethan's hands curled into fists. "Lily," he said softly. "I'm sorry you had to see that," she whispered. "You don't have to apologize for his behavior." Her eyes shimmered. Not tears, but exhaustion. "It's fine. He just doesn't like unfinished conversations. And you don't like being cornered." She swallowed. He had hit the truth. "Ethan," she murmured, "there are things about my past you don't know." "Then let me know them." She looked up at him, really looked, and the vulnerability in her gaze nearly shattered him. "You're 8 years too late," she said softly. Not angry, not bitter, just broken. She turned away before he could respond, moving behind the counter, trying to compose herself. But Ethan didn't move, because for the first time, he understood something painfully clearly. He hadn't just overlooked Lily back then. He had failed her, and he didn't intend to repeat that mistake. Not now. Not ever again. Snow tapped gently against the shop window, a soft, rhythmic whisper that filled the silence between them after Parker stormed out. Lily stood behind the counter, her hands trembling slightly as she pretended to reorganize a stack of gift tags. The little bell above the door had stopped rattling, but its echo still lingered in the air like a tension that refused to settle. Ethan didn't move. He watched her. Not with pity, not with judgment, but with a kind of stillness. quiet concern, unspoken understanding that she didn't quite know what to do with. She wasn't used to being watched gently. "Lily," he said finally, stepping closer. "You don't have to say anything you're not ready to say." She didn't look up. "Good. Because I'm not." His chest tightened. He could see the way her shoulders curled inward, the way she held her breath every few seconds as if she were trying to keep herself from unraveling. She wasn't weak. She was holding too much, and she had been doing it for a very long time. "I didn't mean to interfere," he said softly. "I just didn't like how he spoke to you." "That's normal for him," she murmured. "That doesn't make it okay." Lily exhaled shakily. "You don't understand. It's complicated." "Then help me understand." Her eyes lifted, hesitating, unsure. "Why? Why does it matter to you now?" He opened his mouth, then paused, because he didn't have a clean, simple answer. Why did it matter? Why did seeing her shrink away from Parker make his blood boil? Why, after 8 years, did the idea of her being mistreated make something primal twist inside his chest? He swallowed. "Because I care." The words came out more honest than he intended. Lily blinked. "You don't know me anymore," she said quietly. "I know." He stepped a little closer. "But I'd like to." Her breath hitched. Not in excitement, not in longing, in fear. Fear of believing him. Fear of letting herself believe that someone like him, a boy who once hadn't even known she existed, could care now. Lily shook her head. "Ethan, please don't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because I don't know what they mean," she whispered, voice barely audible. He exhaled, grounding himself before speaking again. "Then let me be clear. I'm not here to play games. I'm not here to make you uncomfortable. I'm just here. And I'm worried." She wiped her hands on her sweater, trying to steady herself. "You shouldn't be. I've handled worse." That sentence hit him like a punch. Handled worse. He closed the distance between them slowly, careful not to startle her. "Lily, what did he do to you?" Her eyes flickered with something sharp. Fear, memory, protective instinct. "Parker? Nothing. Not really. He just doesn't let go of things easily." "That's not nothing." She bit her lip. "Lily," Ethan said gently, "if I'm overstepping, tell me. But I need to know, were you two—" "No," she cut in quickly. "We were never together." Relief flashed across Ethan's face, but Lily wasn't done. "He tried," she admitted. "He tried for years, all through high school, even after." She sighed. "He never understood that I didn't want what he wanted." Ethan felt heat rise through him, anger he didn't quite know what to do with. "But he kept pushing?" Ethan asked. Lily nodded. "And he still does?" She nodded again, smaller this time, as if ashamed. "And no one stopped him?" Ethan pressed, trying to keep his voice steady. Lily swallowed hard. "People don't usually defend the girl on the sidelines, Ethan." He froze. She hadn't meant it as an accusation, but it was the truth, a truth he had been a part of. "I'm sorry," he said quickly, voice thick. "Lily, I'm so sorry." Her eyes lifted, startled by the intensity of his tone. "For what?" she asked softly. "For not seeing you back then," he said. "For not knowing you were struggling. For not being someone who could have helped instead of someone who didn't notice." She blinked fast, as if fighting tears. "It's not your fault." "It feels like it is." "It shouldn't." He shook his head. "But I let people like him treat people like you however they wanted. And I did nothing. I heard the jokes. I heard what people said about you. I saw how they treated you. And I still didn't step in." Her eyes flicked downward. "I'm not here to make you feel guilty," she murmured. "You were just a kid too. But I still could have done better." "And you're trying now," she whispered. Silence wrapped around them again. Soft, tentative, fragile. Lily turned toward the counter and picked up her pencil, twirling it between her fingers. "I learned to hide a lot back then." She took a shaky breath. "At home, things weren't great. My dad worked 3 jobs. My mom was sick. I spent most of high school walking on eggshells, trying not to add more stress to a house that was already falling apart. And at school, she paused. At school, I was invisible, she said quietly, which was safer than being noticed. The words slid into the air like snowflakes falling on frozen ground, quiet but heavy. Ethan felt something inside him ache. She continued, voice barely above a whisper. People weren't cruel to me the way they were to others. They weren't mean. I wasn't bullied. I was just nothing. Easy to overlook, easy to forget. Her eyes lifted, meeting his. And then there was you, she said. His breath caught. You weren't cruel, she said, shaking her head gently. You were never mean. You were always polite, but you were kind in the way someone is kind to a stranger passing by. We didn't talk. You didn't notice me unless a teacher made you partner with me on something. You didn't remember me if I passed in the hallway. He felt the guilt settle like a heavy blanket. I saw you, she whispered. I saw everyone, but no one saw me. Those 3 words, no one saw me, hit him harder than anything anyone had ever said. He stepped closer. Lily, he murmured, I see you now. She squeezed her eyes shut, breath trembling. But I don't trust that. Then let me earn it. She opened her eyes slowly, searching his face as if looking for the lie. People don't change like that, Ethan. 8 years doesn't erase old patterns. Maybe not, he admitted, but 8 years can teach you how wrong you were. Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. Snow drifted slowly outside. The last few customers wandered past the window. The little bell above the door remained silent. Inside the shop, the space felt sacred, like a confession booth, like the place where secrets were finally allowed to breathe. Ethan leaned his forearms on the counter, his voice gentle. I want to understand you, who you are now, who you were then, what you've gone through, what makes you smile, what makes you quiet, what scares you, what matters to you. Ethan, her voice trembled like glass about to crack. I'm not asking for everything, he said softly. Just don't shut me out. Lily took a breath, then another. Her walls, the ones she'd built brick by brick since childhood, the ones Parker had reinforced with every unwanted advance, the ones the world had taught her she needed, they trembled. Why now? She whispered. His answer was simple. Because you deserve to be seen. A long silence settled between them, warm, hesitant, almost electric. Then the bell above the door rang. A customer walked in. Lily stepped back instinctively, slipping behind her calm shopkeeper mask so quickly, Ethan's heart ached. But he didn't leave. He walked around the shop, pretending to browse, while she assisted the customer with a gentle smile. He stayed because she mattered. He stayed because something inside him had changed the moment he saw her again. He stayed because he wanted to know her, not the blurry memory from school, but the woman she'd become. And Lily. Even as she tried to focus on helping the customer, her eyes flicked to him. Once, twice, a third time, lingering for half a second longer. She noticed him noticing her, and for the first time in a very long time, she didn't look away. The afternoon slipped into evening slowly, like a soft sigh settling over Pinewood Hollow. The snow had eased into a gentle flurry, falling in lazy spirals that drifted past the shop windows as Lily finished helping the last customer of the day. Ethan stood near the display of handmade candles, pretending to compare scents even though he had no idea what he was holding. Mostly he was watching Lily. He didn't mean to watch her as much as he did, but there was something hypnotic about the way she moved. Gentle, steady, almost careful with the world around her. She didn't see him looking, or at least, he thought she didn't. The truth was, she saw him in every reflection, every flicker of peripheral vision, every time his tall frame shifted positions in the shop. And each time she caught the outline of him, something inside her tightened and loosened all at once. When the doorbell chimed and the customer left with a cheerful, "Merry Christmas," the shop fell into a soft, warm quiet. Lily let out a breath she'd been holding for hours. "Long day," she murmured. Ethan stepped away from the candles. "Want help closing up?" She hesitated, not because she wanted to refuse, but because she wasn't used to anyone offering. "You don't have to." "I know," he said, smiling lightly. "But I'd like to." Her shoulders dropped a little, accepting. Okay, sure. They moved around each other naturally, as if they'd been doing this for months rather than hours. Lily wiped down the counter. Ethan swept near the door. She updated inventory notes. He restacked a row of ornament boxes. Their movements were quiet, but not stiff. There was an ease between them that hadn't been there years ago, a gentleness that felt new and familiar at the same time. At one point, Lily climbed a short stepladder to take the open sign down from the front window. Ethan instinctively moved behind her, not touching, not crowding, just close enough that if she wobbled, he could steady her. She didn't wobble, but she felt the awareness of him like a warm breath at the back of her neck. When she stepped down, she nearly collided with him. Their eyes caught, too close, too unexpectedly. The moment held, just long enough for both their hearts to trip over themselves before she backed away quickly, clearing her throat. "I should finish counting the register." "Right," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I'll keep sweeping." They pretended the moment hadn't happened, but it had, and the air between them held it, humming quietly. 10 minutes later, as Ethan swept near the display of ribbons, he bumped a basket by accident. It tipped, spilling dozens of colored spools across the floor. Red, gold, green. They rolled in every direction, bouncing off table legs and scattering under shelves. Ethan froze mid-motion, broom still in hand, his eyes wide like he'd just committed a felony. "I swear I didn't touch it," he announced solemnly. "I just breathed near it." Lily stared for half a second and then burst into laughter. Not a polite customer service laugh. A real laugh. Warm, startled, bubbling up like something long-trapped finally escaping. She covered her mouth, eyes shining. "You breathed near it?" Very aggressively, he added with dramatic seriousness. Truly reckless breathing. She snorted. Actually snorted, and then doubled over into more laughter. Ethan couldn't help it. His own grin stretched wide. "There it is," he said softly. "What?" she managed, wiping a tear from her eye. "That," he said gently, admiration slipping through. "Your laugh. Haven't heard it like that." The words made her chest flutter painfully. She knelt beside him to gather ribbons. Their hands brushed over the same gold spool. Both froze. Neither moved away immediately. Her breath unsteady, she whispered, "Sorry." "Don't be," he said, voice low. Something flickered in the air, something fragile and tender. They didn't name it. They didn't need to. After they finished cleaning the mess, Lily turned off the overhead lights. The only glow came from the small Christmas tree in the corner, its soft gold lights reflecting off glass ornaments and casting gentle shadows across the shop. Ethan watched her quietly as she admired the tree. "You decorated it?" he asked. She nodded. "One night when I couldn't sleep, I wanted the shop to feel warm, safe." "It does," he said quietly. "You do." She turned, startled by the sincerity. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. The silence that followed was softer than any words could have been. When she grabbed her coat, Ethan spoke again. "Do you need a ride home?" "Oh, I walk," she said. "It's only 2 blocks." "You shouldn't walk alone at night." "I do it every day. Doesn't mean you should." His tone was gentle, not controlling, protective in a way she hadn't felt from anyone in a long time. "You're more protective than I remember," she said lightly. "I wasn't protective before," he admitted. "No," she said softly. "You weren't." His jaw tightened, regret tightening the lines around his eyes. "I'm trying to change that." She looked at him carefully. Then, after a moment, she nodded. "If you really want to walk with me, I won't say no." His breath caught. "Yeah, I'd like that." They stepped out into the cold night. Fresh snowflakes drifted from the sky, glowing softly under the lampposts. Their boots crunched through the snow in quiet rhythm as they walked side by side, close enough that their arms brushed occasionally. "So," Lily said after a moment, "how long are you staying in town?" Ethan exhaled. "I'm not sure." "You don't know?" she asked. "No," he admitted. "I said I was here for a short visit. But now, I kind of want to stay longer." Lily's heart skipped. "Any particular reason?" He glanced at her, eyes warm. "Yeah, a few." She didn't ask. She didn't have to. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of things unsaid, things almost said, Things maybe neither was ready for yet. "I meant what I said earlier," Ethan murmured. "I want to know you." She looked ahead at the falling snow. "You say that, but you don't know what you're asking." "Then explain it to me," he said gently. "I've changed," she whispered. "Life changed me. I'm not the girl you didn't notice. I'm cautious. Harder. I don't let people close easily." "That's okay," he said. "I'm not who I was either." She looked up at him. Really looked. "What changed you?" "Life," he said simply. "Mistakes. Losing things I thought were secure. Realizing the life I built wasn't actually making me happy." Lily's chest tightened. "You seem gentler now." "Life will do that," he murmured. They reached the steps of her apartment. She paused. "This is me." Ethan nodded, but he didn't move away. The snow fell around them like quiet white confetti. Lily shifted her weight, uncertainty flickering across her face. "Thank you," she said, "for walking me." "Thank you," he replied, "for letting me." For a heartbeat, neither moved. Snow dusted her hair like tiny crystals. Her cheeks flushed pink from the cold. Ethan thought she looked like the very heart of winter. Beautiful and soft and quietly luminous. "Good night, Lily," he whispered. "Good night, Ethan." She turned and climbed halfway up the stairs. Then she stopped. She didn't look back, didn't turn around, but in a soft voice that nearly stole his breath, she said, "I'm glad you came back." Ethan closed his eyes, taking in the words like a breath he'd been waiting years to inhale. When he opened them again, she was gone. He stood in the snow a long time after that, staring at her window, watching the lights turn off one by one. Something inside him shifted. Subtle, but definite. A quiet decision forming in the center of his chest. He wasn't leaving Pinewood Hollow tomorrow. Not the next day. Not yet. Maybe not at all. For the first time in years, that thought didn't scare him. It felt right. The next morning arrived beneath a thick blanket of clouds, the kind that pressed low and heavy over Pinewood Hollow, dimming the sunlight into a muted winter gray. Snow drifted in slow, steady flakes against the window of Ethan's childhood bedroom, where he had spent the night sleeping far less than he intended. He lay awake replaying Lily's voice, those 6 soft words that had settled into him deeper than he expected. "I'm glad you came back." He kept hearing them, the way her voice had trembled a little, the way she hadn't turned around because she didn't need to. He felt them in his chest like warmth he thought he'd forgotten how to feel. By the time he went downstairs, the house was empty, his parents already out, busy with holiday preparations. He grabbed his coat and scarf and stepped outside into the crisp, snowy morning. The air tasted like winter and pine and possibility, and something inside him knew exactly where he wanted to be. He made his way into town, stopping at Alder's Bakery. The moment he walked in, Mrs. Alder took one look at him and grinned like she'd been waiting for this very moment. Well, if it isn't the man who disappeared for a decade and suddenly returned more handsome and more confused, she said, eyes sparkling as she filled a pastry box. 2 hot chocolates. He blinked. Yes? And 1 with extra cinnamon, she added knowingly, for someone who likes a little sweetness even when she pretends she doesn't. She lowered her voice. "She's a good one, Ethan. Took her long enough to stop waiting for you to notice." Heat crept up his neck. "I know," he said quietly. "Then don't miss your chance this time," Mrs. Alder said, sliding the box and cups toward him. "Christmas has a way of forgiving fools, but only if they try." Snowfall thickened as he left the bakery and headed toward Lily's shop. The windows were already lit from inside, warm against the cold day. When he pushed open the door, the bell chimed its soft, familiar jingle. Lily knelt on the floor near the holiday display, gluing a tiny ceramic reindeer back together. There was a faint smudge of paint on her cheek. Ethan watched her quietly for a moment before clearing his throat. She looked up, startled at first. Then her face softened into a smile that made something melt inside him. "You came back." Her voice held no surprise, just recognition, and something he didn't dare name. "I brought breakfast," he said, holding up the warm cups like an offering. She stood and wiped her hands on her apron. "Let me guess. Mrs. Alder added extra cinnamon because she can't stay out of other people's business?" "Something like that," he said, smiling. They sat near the window, watching the snow while sipping cocoa and eating pastries. The street outside was quiet, the world muted by snowfall. For a moment, it felt like the world had narrowed to just them. Lily reached into the bag and pulled out the gingerbread man. It had a crooked little smile. She snorted softly. "She does this on purpose." Ethan leaned closer. "Do you want her to stop?" The way he asked, gentle, uncertain, hopeful, made her pulse flutter. "I don't know," she said truthfully, staring down into her cocoa. "It's been a long time since I let myself consider anything like this." "Like this?" he repeated softly. She flinched at her own words. "I didn't mean, it's okay," he murmured. "You don't have to explain." But she did feel the need to explain, or at least say something to cover the trembling inside her. "I'm just scared, Ethan." He tensed. "Of me?" "No. Of how I feel when you're near me." Silence fell, warm and thick. Then he exhaled slowly. "I'm scared too." She looked up at him, startled. "I haven't felt this way about anyone in a long time," he said, voice low. "And it's new. And overwhelming. And I'm trying really hard not to mess it up." Her lips parted, but no words came out. He leaned in just slightly, close enough to see the tiny gold flecks in her hazel eyes. "I don't want to hurt you, Lily." She swallowed hard. "I don't want to be hurt again." "I won't hurt you," he said, and this time his voice was firm, steady. "I promise." She looked down because looking at him felt like looking into the sun. As the day went on, the shop filled with customers. Children darted through the aisles, giggling as they hunted for candy canes. Couples argued gently over ornament choices. Elderly neighbors told stories Lily had already heard a dozen times, but listened to again anyway. Ethan helped all day, carrying boxes, wrapping gifts, handing out cocoa packets to shivering customers. At one point, a little girl asked if he worked there. Lily almost told her he does today. And he did. He worked beside Lily like he had always been meant to be part of that little world. By late afternoon, clouds darkened into a thick storm front. The wind picked up, rattling the shop's glass door. Lily narrowed her eyes at the window. "That doesn't look good. We should close early." "Good idea," Ethan agreed. She reached for the sign, but before she could flip it, the lights flickered twice and went out completely. The heater cut off. The hum of the lights stopped. The shop fell into darkness. Lily stiffened. "Oh no." Ethan turned on his phone flashlight. The soft glow illuminated her worried face. "It's okay," he said gently. "Just a power outage." "It won't be fixed tonight," she murmured. "The whole block is probably out." The wind howled outside, violent and sharp. Ethan stepped closer. "You shouldn't walk home alone in this." "It's 2 blocks," she said, forcing a smile. "I'm not letting you walk alone in a snowstorm," he said, his voice carrying a quiet finality. There was no argument in her, not tonight. She nodded. They stepped outside into chaos. Snow whipped at their faces, wind pushing them sideways. Lily nearly slipped on a patch of ice, but Ethan caught her arm, steadying her. "Stay close," he said. She did, closer than she meant to. Halfway down the street, an icy gust slammed into them hard enough to make Lily gasp. Ethan moved instantly, shielding her with his body. "Walk behind me," he said, voice raised over the wind. "I've got you." And that was the moment that broke her. Not because of fear, but because someone was finally standing between her and the storm, instead of leaving her to face it alone. She pressed closer to him without thinking. He held her steady, guiding her through the blinding white. By the time they reached her apartment steps, her eyelashes were tipped in frost, her cheeks flushed pink with cold. Ethan brushed the snow from her coat gently while she fumbled with the keys. When the door finally opened, warm air spilled out. She stepped inside, then turned and looked at him. "You should come in," she said softly, her breath still unsteady. "Just until the storm eases." He stared at her, searching her expression, making sure she really meant it. "Are you sure?" he asked quietly. She nodded. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him as the storm howled outside. Her apartment was small but warm, filled with soft golden lights and little decorations that made the space feel alive. Handmade ornaments, old books, tiny trinkets with stories behind them. A small Christmas tree glowed in the corner, mismatched ornaments glimmering beneath twinkling lights. Ethan slipped off his coat. Lily did the same. For a moment, they simply stood there, snow melting onto the wooden floor, breathing in the stillness of the room. Then she whispered, almost too soft to hear, "You make me feel safe." Ethan didn't move, didn't breathe. Then he stepped toward her slowly, giving her time to step back if she wanted. She didn't. He lifted one hand and brushed a lingering snowflake from her cheek. Her breath hitched. The moment stretched, warm and fragile. "Lily," he murmured. She looked up at him, eyes shining with something unspoken, but unmistakable. "I don't want to be scared anymore," she whispered. "Then you don't have to be," he said softly. She hesitated, trembling. Not from cold, but from everything she'd kept locked away for years. "I'm tired of being alone," she whispered. "You're not alone," he said, voice trembling with the truth of it. And then she moved. Not dramatically, not suddenly. She simply stepped closer and rested her forehead against his chest. Ethan inhaled sharply, closing his eyes as his arms slowly wrapped around her, carefully, reverently, as if he were afraid she'd disappear if he held too tightly. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, something healed. For the first time in years, Lily let someone hold her. For the first time in years, Ethan held something he didn't want to lose, and neither of them pulled away. Not for a very, very long time. The storm lasted through the night, but neither Ethan nor Lily seemed aware of anything beyond the quiet warmth of her living room. They talked for hours, soft, low words shared over blankets and cooling mugs of tea, about the years they'd missed, the people they'd lost, the versions of themselves they were still learning to forgive. At some point, Lily fell asleep with her head resting gently against Ethan's shoulder. He didn't dare move. He watched her breathe, watched the exhaustion melt from her features, watched the fragile strength of her settle into something peaceful. And in that moment, Ethan knew with absolute certainty, he didn't want to lose this. He didn't want to lose her. By sunrise, the storm had passed. Pale winter light filtered through the curtains, touching everything with a soft golden hue. Lily stirred awake slowly, blinking up at him with sleepy confusion that shifted into something warmer when she remembered where she was and who she was with. Ethan smiled at her, the kind of smile that spoke of promises not yet said aloud. She smiled back, small and shy and hopeful. It was enough. When Ethan finally left that morning, he paused at her doorway. "I'm not going anywhere," he said quietly, not as a plea, but as truth. Lily held his gaze, searching his face for any sign of uncertainty. She found none. "Then, maybe I don't have to be afraid," she whispered. He stepped forward and pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. "You don't." And as he walked down her snow-covered steps, both of them realized something neither dared speak aloud just yet. His return home for Christmas had brought him back to the one thing he didn't know he'd been missing all along. Her.